Germans are about to choose the path they want their country to take and who they want to lead them down it. As the nation sometimes struggles to adjust to hosting more than 1 million refugees.
At its height, the refugee crisis looks like it could be Chancellor Angela Merkel's undoing. Her popularity plummeted while the far-right anti-immigration party, Alternative for Germany, soared. Immigration is still a big issue for many German voters, and all the parties are campaigning on a different solution.
Dresden is the birthplace of the patriotic Europeans against the Islamization of the West, or Pegida. Their members are accused of being racist neo-Nazis, and some have physically attacked refugees. But their views are becoming more mainstream and gaining a political voice through the AfD, which looks likely to be the first far-right party to enter the Bundestag in post-war history.
Die Probleme sind, dass viele ältere Leute hier da sind, viele sozial Schwache, für die war bislang halt kein Geld da.
Die Politiker sind für ihr Volk angetreten, nicht für andere, die in unser Land reinkommen. Man kann dann ins Haus und die Tür offen machen und rein.
Syed Nurpacha has been in Dresden for 2 years. He's a refugee from Afghanistan. Syed says while he's had some great experiences with kind, welcoming Germans here, he's also had some bad ones.
I was walking on the street and some of them came and they used very bad word to me. And I didn't say anything, and I told him, Danke schön.
Last year, one of his refugee friends was beaten in the street.
They catch him and they beat him, and he was very crying, you know, when I reached to him, and he said, "Why? What's my fault?"
It wasn't supposed to be like this when Chancellor Angela Merkel opened Germany's doors.
Refugees are welcome here. Say it now, say it here. Refugees are welcome here.
In 2015, there was a wave of support for refugees coming to Germany. But it didn't take long for that wave to crash. Franziska Hoenisch wanted to make a positive film about Germans who opened their homes to refugees. But when she started researching, she found the reality was harsher.
One woman, she said one sentence that shifted for us the whole script writing process, which was, she said, "Helping is no fun."
Her film Club Europa tells the story of what happens when a refugee living in a share house has their asylum rejected.
It used to be a bit like a fashion, like I help refugees. There was even this phrase, "I do refugee work," where, you know, you feel like, okay, what does that mean? And why do you announce it so loud?
For many Germans, the biggest issue is integration. How to adjust to living or working with someone from a different culture and language. Ahmed Mobayed came from Syria as a refugee and arrived in Germany in 2015. He's studying on a scholarship at International University, Bard College.
Day after day, I was really feeling that the only thing can be really useful for me and for the future of my family and my country is just to stick to education, because I felt that the main problem that we're having in my country is because of the lack of the right education.
He says while he has mostly been made to feel welcome in Germany, integrating into German culture and learning the language is a difficult and long process.
Some people just kind of they just ignore those differences and they stick to their fellow refugees, and they spend most of the time with them, which creates some kind of ghettos. But I think for the most people who are ambitious and really passionate about being here, either in Germany or in Europe, they will find a way.
As Germans go to the polls on September 24, will the sentiment towards refugees lead to policies that make it easier or harder for them to find their way here? Yvette McCullough in Berlin for the Newsmakers.
Well, to discuss this, I'm joined by Frank Hansel. He's a member of the Alternative for Germany party AfD and a member of Berlin's regional parliament. Also in the German capital, we have Thomas Klein-Brockhoff. He's the vice president of the think tank, the German Marshall Fund of the United States. And in Frankfurt, Zafer Mesche. He's the general coordinator at the German office of the SETA Foundation. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Thomas, let me begin with you. Let's all assume this election, at the heart of it, is all about refugees. Has Angela Merkel pushed many Germans into the hands of the far right because over the past 2 years she's taken in 1 million refugees and migrants?
First of all, this election is not all about refugees. It's not all about one issue. In fact, it is less about this issue than one might have thought, given the enormous number of people who have arrived. And it certainly, the consequence of it is that on the fringes of the German electorate, there is a movement that will probably gain from this, but the center in the German electorate seems to be not only holding but concerned about many issues, only one of them being refugees.
Frank, is it a good time to be the AfD?
Yes, I think, yes, and I would not say, of course, we are not right-wing. That's what the media say, and they put us into this direction, but we are actually a center-right party who understand that Mrs. Merkel has brought the Christian Democrats into the social democracy. So there was a shift from the center-right to the left, and we fill this political vacuum. We are not far-right. We just want law back into the country and rules and law.
Hold on, you say you're not far right. You said you're not even right wing, you say you're center right.
Yes.
So during this entire campaign, you've essentially had a big clear target of 1 million mainly helpless, penniless new arrivals as your target to blame for all your problems in the country. Historically, you've had Holocaust deniers associated with your party. Historically, that was an issue. You kicked them out of the party. You have an AfD candidate saying the Muslim religion does not belong in Germany, also saying Germany should be proud of its World War II veterans. That's Alexander Gauland. You mentioned all of this to me, and then, I mean, this is all in the evidence, this is in the track record, and then you tell me you're not right-wing. I mean, can you at least admit that the AfD is far-right and people might relate to those ideas?
We are not far-right, and although within the party we sometimes criticize some voices which are then scandalized by the media. What our electorate and what our people want is that we get control of who comes into the country again. Nobody wants to expel nobody. This is not the point, and we understand, and we have the asylum law. This is no problem. Civil war, refugees have to be protected in our country. This is not the problem. But if you lose the total control of the borders and you have 600,000 people coming in who are not registered, who nobody knows who they are, what they want, and how long they're going to stay, then you have a problem. And this problem is what the German electorate, I think, criticizes with the Angela Merkel government. And when we say Islam is not part of Germany, then it's the Islam, the expanding Islam, and it's not the spirituality of the people. And of course, we have religious freedom. This is not the point. And we do not say the Muslims are not part of the country, because they are, especially if they are integrated and on the ground of our federal, on the constitutional law. We do not want Sharia in our country. And I think this is very legitimate to say.
Do you believe, genuinely, Frank, that there's an imminent possibility that Sharia will be implemented in Germany very soon if the German government continues to bring in refugees?
Well, of course, not tomorrow and not the day after tomorrow. But if you have cities like Offenbach or in Frankfurt and other cities, where in the 6th class, in the pupils, there is 70% already with migrants and Muslim migrants, and then if you see one generation more, and we talk about 20 or 30 years, then this is not absolutely deniable. And we just want control, and everybody's welcome if they are conforming with our values and tolerance, which we have gained in the last 20, 30 years. We want people who contribute to the country, who work here. We want an immigration law, which AFD wants since we were founded in 2013. We were the first one who understood that we need migration and immigration into the country, but we want it in a selected way like the Anglo-Saxon country do it, like Canada and the United States.
Okay.
What we do not want is uncontrolled migration.
Zafar, let me ask you, tell me if you believe
Yes.
those, Zafar, who would agree with Frank and would vote for the AFD candidates, tell me if you think they're onto something or if they have some reasonable claims for what they're doing. Because as Frank says, they see a logic behind it and they feel they're just protecting their own.
I mean, I've heard the colleague from the AFD and, I can only say that it is not just a small minority group within the party which is, let's say, extreme right. I mean, here is a very good podium that he can distance himself from the statement of his chairman of the party, Gauland. He said that the government's integration official, top politician Aydan Özoğuz, could be disposed of in Anatolia, and he's glorifying the Wehrmacht soldiers who were serving under Adolf Hitler as patriots. So, okay, let me believe you and just distance yourself.
Okay, so let's ask Frank. Frank, World War II veterans, those were Nazis. They were not good guys. Was that a big mistake of what Gauland said? Would you condemn that?
Well, let me put it in two ways. The first one was the integration ministry. Of course, it would not be my tone, but what is true, I think, that we should not part of a German government official if she thinks that there is no German culture beyond the language. Of course, this is a political statement of her that is wrong, but the way Mr. Gauland put it is probably not really helpful, especially as we do not want to gain votes from the far right or from the neo-Nazis, which is not our electorate. We need to gain confidence by people who lost confidence with Angela Merkel and the Social Democrats, the Grand Coalition. We want the normal people from the center of the political spectrum to trust in AFD. We do not want the right one. That's the first thing. The second thing is what Gauland said of the Wehrmacht.
There is no distance from the statement of your president, of your chairman. There is no distance, I suppose.
Well, he's not president. He's deputy.
You know why? Because
he's deputy German,
AFD,
and I
AFD
said...
Okay, Zafar. Okay, Frank, answer the second point. Answer the second point, Frank.
Yeah. There is a large, for the last 10 or 15 years on the Wehrmacht, and what is clear and what was the sense behind this, that not every soldier was a Nazi. There were soldiers who defended their country and were patriots in this way. Of course, they were Nazis, but please understand also that the resistance against Hitler were also soldiers by the Wehrmacht. The problem of Gauland's statement was that it was wrong in the wrong time. We Germans want solutions for the future. We need to solve our future problems and not attitudes of the past. So this was historically from the timing,
it was not in the wrong time.
Statement.
It's just about election day, and he was about to fishing the undecided voters for his party. There is pure strategy behind it, and there is another strategy.
But I told you that our strategy is not to win the right wing. We want the center-right people who are disappointed by Mrs. Merkel.
Okay, fair enough.
And
I want to take that point and I want to pose it to Thomas. I want to take that point. Hold on, Zafar, if you please. Zafar, allow me to take that point and pose it to Thomas. So, Thomas, you have their strategy, as they say, from the horse's mouth. They're trying to pick off those who are disaffected by the middle or the center-right. They feel Merkel's let them down. They want to pick off these voters. Does Merkel still have enough from among those in the middle, whether we're saying center-right or we're saying center-left from her coalition partners, to keep Germany as it is right now? Or after this election, Might there be a possibility, Thomas, that Germany will fundamentally change overnight?
I don't believe that will happen. The polls show conclusively, no matter how much a panel like this will get at each other's throat, that the center in this country is strong, the center is holding, the polls show her in front, the polls show her far in front. It is very unlikely that in whatever coalition, whatever thinkable coalition of the center, the policy of the country will change dramatically. It is important to note that given the numbers of refugees this country has hosted since 2015, the enormous contributions of people who have taken people in, of taxpayers who have paid an enormous amount to make this happen, and a labor market that is sucking up refugees even if they can't speak the language because it is so bullish. So I would actually turn the focus of this conversation about what has been achieved and how strong the center is that is going to win this election.
Zafar, if the center is going to do so well, and the polls, as Thomas mentions, I mean, it seems as if from an ARD poll that Merkel's Christian Democratic Union are 17 points ahead of the center-left, right? So if they're going to be doing so well, and at best you might just have, for example, the AfD on the right, the far right, having a little representation in Parliament, why are you so worried, Zafar?
It's not a little representation. According to the recent polls, it's somehow beyond 10%. Maybe they will be the strongest third party following Christian Democrats and Social Democrats. If they have 13%, they will have 100 deputies in the German parliament, and which means that from 600 deputies, we will have 100 AfD members in the parliament. And you know what will happen? I mean, the debate, the parliamentary debate culture will change. It will be more aggressive, more tougher, and AfD will follow a pattern of a strategy, namely to let's say to breaking taboos about sensitive political topics, where all democratic parties have a consensus on let's say on the historical workup of the Third Reich, the culture of remembrance of Holocaust, with thinking in relative terms, all these issues. So you know they are in 13 state parliaments as well. Now, if they will be in the federal parliament,
let me, if you allow me, jump in on Zafar's comment, if you could.
Come in, Thomas.
Please.
Nobody,
Should I comment?
Nobody in the center of the political spectrum, to whatever center-left or center-right party, is welcoming of the fact that the AfD will likely join the parliament. And yes, it is true, there will be a number. If polls hold up, there will be a number, not even a small number, of members of parliament from the AfD. But the German parliament and German democracy is strong and has a strong tradition of integrating even extreme voices. We have seen that from the 1960s onwards. We have integrated the Greens as a new party that was pretty radical in the 1980s. The post-communists and post-1989
That's exactly the issue. They are at the end of the day integrated. And the AfD will somehow also on the right spectrum, most probably. I don't know. So
okay, so let's ask the man from the AfD. What would constitute a successful election for you? Is it what Zafar fears, that you get some seats in parliament and you get to change the narrative, you get to shake things up a little bit, and you get absorbed and integrated into the political culture? That's what he fears. Tell me what you think, Frank.
Well, first of all, I think we will become the third power, political power in Germany. That's true. We are already in the 13 state parliaments, as was said. That's correct. And it is good. It's actually good because we are doing something for democracy. We bring people back into the electoral, in the voting process. Because if 20 to 30 or even 40% sometimes do not vote, then this shows actually frustration of our way of democracy. So we bring back the people, or part of the people, into the electorate process, which is good for democracy. And then what is important, we need an opposition. We have the Euro rescue crisis, which the Euro divides Europe. We understand that Germany gains from the Euro, but Spain, Italy, Greece and Portugal, they suffer from the overweighted Euro. And we have the migration crisis, and the discontent of the population is there, and we try to canalize it in a parliamentary, rational process. Imagine if we would not be there. Then it could be happening what Zafar says, that there might be coming up some guys and some people on the street and try to get violent problems in the street. We do not want this. We want to canalize uncontent part of the population.
So Zafar, fight them in Parliament. Okay, so let's get, certainly, good point. Zafar, fight them in Parliament. Fight their ideas with better ideas in Parliament. Don't exclude them from the political process. What do you think, Zafar?
Exactly.
I mean, the issue is really, I am for the democratic principles, of course, but then you have to play the game according to the rules. What we witness now,
doing this.
The recent days, the AfD is getting more and more aggressive in order to, as I said, to fish for more, let's say, voters who are not decided. We have another issue. We have the issue of the German identity, which is, you know, we are living in a Germany of 82 millions and we have 61 million voters, which means that we have a very big group, more than 50 years old. 50% of the voters are older than 50 years, and 18 million are older than 70 years. That we have an aging country with a young generation, with migration background. So when we step into the discussion about the German identity, I'm really wondering what AfD is thinking about how to integrate migrants. That means with the background being not a bio-German. So how do we coexist in a system together with the understanding of the Völkisch, we say in German, which bases on the blood and race. How do we coexist together?
I want to actually ask that to Thomas.
I'm sorry, but this is not our discourse. We are not talking about blood. We are not talking about race. This is not AfD discourse. This is Nazi discourse.
But when you say bikinis or burqas,
I'm very sorry.
Sure, certainly, Frank. But when you say bikinis,
not our discourse.
Certainly,
as
Frank.
I said, we want.
I'm sorry that you're not telling the truth. I'm really sorry.
You're presenting perhaps a false dichotomy to voters here. You're saying it's either the one thing or the other. Nevertheless, I'm running out of time, so let me ask Thomas.
Let me just make one point, please, gentlemen. One point only. We don't have to convince the 100% convinced already. So if there are right-wing voters probably who want to vote AfD, let them do it. But we do not gain anything by giving them fire to voters. We do not the 150%ers. We need the one who is skeptical. We need the ones who want to back control in the country. And this is the electorate
and that's fine.
of
and
the middle
you've
class
mentioned it before.
And the right wing. This is what we need.
That's fine, and
from
you've
the
mentioned
center,
it before.
which Merkel put into the left.
Okay.
This is our point, and this is where we're going to win
Fair
these
enough.
elections.
Thomas, we got a taste of the German culture wars, and we had a mention of German identity. Is German identity under question come this election?
German identity is formed by basic law and the principles of democracy. And the principles of democracy and that law call for pluralism, including any citizen's rights to express themselves. So we will have the AfD. The AfD will not put German democracy under siege. It will be absorbed, and I predict you it will fail.
Gentlemen, I'm out of time. I have to move on, but I've really enjoyed and appreciated talking to all of you. Frank Hansel, Thomas Klein-Brockhoff, and Zafar Meshe, thank you very much for joining us.